my gosh. Hey! CRAZYDRE Podcast. That's amazing. CRAZYDRE Podcast.
Welcome to the CRAZYDRE Podcast Show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the CRAZYDRE Podcast Show. I'm your main man, Crazy Crockett, CRAZYDRE. And I got my buddy here, Mr. Ron, wheelchair, grumpy old man. No, he's not grumpy, he's pretty cheerful.
Yeah, I'm up today, yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Right.
Nice day out though. We're a different setup now.
We have a more comfortable setup.
Yeah, it is. It is much more comfortable.
You got your seat, you can relax. We don't have
a nice
hard
background there in the cityscape.
I got my picture of these two guys, Malcolm X and Dr. King.
Yeah.
Most of you guys don't know I'm a little bit politically enhanced.
Mm-hmm.
I always enjoy politics.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I don't agree on certain topics and ideas, I am a more rounded person about understanding where someone's coming from. But it's another episode. Ron's back on the show. Ron, it's been a little bit. Last time you were on the show, we had a little drunk test together. Drink test. More like craft beer, stouts.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I mean porters, actually, not stouts. We're thinking about doing stouts.
Yeah, we'll do episode on stouts too.
So, as most people know, Ron has Beckers, or a form of muscular dystrophy. He went to a conference. He's been doing this conference for the last 6 years.
Something like that, off and on. Not. It doesn't happen every year, but every so often it happens. This was. Mine was in Pittsburgh, but it was also in Florida, Texas, and another state too, but it's simulcast basically. So they had a camera there. You could look and see people in the other states, like Florida or Texas or whatever, but all at the same time, the same day, the same schedule pretty much, but different locales. So say if you're closer to Florida, it's not that much of a drive, or if you're like Texas. But we don't usually go. If we were going to go, we wouldn't fly because it's too expensive, but we aren't going to drive either because Texas is a long drive. California is a long drive. Florida is a long drive. You know, I mean, I'm for it, but, you know, we're getting too old to travel that amount of miles and time, you know.
You're for it, but your wife is not.
Yeah, right. I'm for it, but she's not. But that's a lot of driving. It's a lot of gas. It's, you know, the longer you go, the longer you're out, the further you go, the more expensive it's going to get. Where this time we just went to Pittsburgh, which is Pennsylvania, like maybe an 8-hour drive at the most. We get it done in 5.
Yeah.
So it all depends. But would I like to make the other ones? Oh yeah, absolutely. But I figure that no, I'll just go the closest place. That way you've got a chance to go. You don't have to put it off saying that, no, I can't make it this year because it's too far away again. And I just can't make it.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that's why they have it in different states, is that more people can attend, but they don't have to travel as far.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense because people with your disability, or do you call it disease or disability?
I would say, you know, well, I'll give you how I view it. Disability to me means that you were once able, but now you are disabled. You cannot walk. If I have a muscular dystrophy, you're not disabled. You're unable. You're like, to me, disabled is like if you could walk, now you can't. I could walk, but I can't. But it's not because I'm disabled. It's just the progression of my disease, and I broke my femur, which didn't help any. So, but we're all the same with Beckers, but we're all totally different. Where I'm older than my buddy Steve. He's another buddy who lives in Detroit that I go to, real good friend. He's in different shape than I am, and he's younger than I am. He can't do his arms anymore. He has to kind of like get a little momentum and flip them up and hold them. Where I can move my arms perfectly and not have to worry about it, but I'm older. So we're all, his cardiomyopathy, he might have a little bit of it, but not as bad as mine. So we're all the same, but we're different. Does that answer your question? I mean,
yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
I'm trying to explain it where some people, well, that doesn't kind of make sense. Well, we all have the same basic things that we have, but they're all a little different. My cardiomyopathy is worse than his, but his muscle structure is advancing quicker than mine. And that's probably because what he does all day is this. He sits in a chair all day and does it.
Types.
Where I try to get up and I move in my chair, I wheel it all the time. I get up, I get down, I stand up a little bit. I can stand up, but I can't really walk because I fall over. It's dangerous. I shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm different than he is probably because I'm more active. And if you stay more active, your muscles don't atrophy as quickly. And that could be, but that's fine because that's his moneymaker. This is what he does. He's laid off now, but he does this for a living. And he does quite well at it. He makes good money. So I'm not saying anything wrong with sitting down and doing the keyboards. That's fine, but I'm more physical than he is. And some people are, some people aren't. So we're all the same, but we're not. We're individuals in certain ways. We all have the gait. We all have the myopathy. We all have the
explain what
cardiomyopathy is a heart condition because your heart is also a muscle. Or I should have mentioned it earlier, but and with that, your heart you'll start getting heart failure, which means you have to take drugs to make your heart beat like it used to. And that's the only thing they're doing is you take these drugs, your heart will work. If I didn't take these drugs, I could die. I mean, once you're older. Now, when I was younger, I wasn't diagnosed, and I don't think it would be that a big deal when I was younger because your heart's more active and you're younger. You're better shape. But as you get older, like I'm in the 60s now, so things start to slow down. Things get worse. So, like I said, we're all the same, but we're different.
Do you think that in your case, if they knew what you had from the time you were born or very young,
well,
do you think that you would have been put on meds right away for your heart?
That's a really good question because I didn't get diagnosed until I was like 26. So my parents did have an idea. Like my dad took me and got some X-rays of my hips, figured that my hips were deformed, and that's why I walked. They had no clue. I mean, they didn't have no scientific experience. We don't know until I was, and this was back in the 90s, early mid 90s, that I was diagnosed, and things are a little bit more advanced nowadays than they used to be back then. Maybe that's why. I knew I had something wrong with me, but I just didn't know what. I had no clue. No one did.
Well, it's a little strange because your mom also, you and her have this way of getting up in a way that.
Oh yeah, where we fold at the waist. Yeah, that's. I think there's a name for that. Like it's like your thumb. Like people are double jointed. Okay, maybe my hips are double jointed. I mean, you can basically fold in half.
Well, yeah, it's amazing.
It is weird. But she's the other one who I could bend over my hands flat on the floor. A lot of people can't do that. They can't do it. So that's one of the things that I did get from my mother. Now, my mother is what you call a carrier. And that means that she doesn't have disease, but if she, she's gone now, God rest her, but if she had gotten pregnant again, she might have had another kid. Well, not necessarily. I mean, she had my brother who turned out regular. But she had me. So she is a carrier. So if the thing matches, that's how people are carriers. They don't have muscular dystrophy, but they carry the gene so if they do have kids. So Steve has 2 children. My buddy Steve with MD. One's a boy and one's a girl. Now the girl, she is a carrier. So when she has a chance of having a kid with muscular dystrophy, either Duchenne's or whatever it is. So that's the carrier. It gets really complicated when you talk about genes and stuff and gene therapy and all this. There's doctors that talk about it, but it's kind of boring. I don't really know their thing of it. I don't want to own anything because I don't know. It can get complicated.
Yeah.
Scientific stuff and doctors' terms,
Well, let me ask you this.
All right.
This is more like maybe a more ethical question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you know, let's say Steve's daughter is the carrier of this disease, do you think that she or anyone that's a person who's a carrier should second think about having kids? Because
that's true. Yeah, mm-hmm. A lot of people will do that. They think because they know there's a chance of it, and what they decide. It's all up to the individual who's having the child. Or the parents, rather. I mean, I don't know. It usually, some people do, but maybe some people don't. Maybe they want to have a child because they know what the trials and tribulations you go through, and the teasing, and the chair, and the the anger and the dealing with it, basically. And
Well, it's a lot of work.
yeah, and it depends on you got to consider that too. But I don't know, if you really want kids, I guess you have to take that chance. So yes, their children are just fine; they're normal children. But when his grandkids could have muscular dystrophy, we're not sure.
What's the chances of them?
That's a good question too, and I don't want to quote anything because I'm not really sure. I wouldn't really know. I'd have to look it up.
But you're not a carrier at all.
No, guys don't usually carry this. It's the woman that's a carrier. That has that
That's
carrier
crazy.
gene. Yeah, it gets really deep though. You can really get into it. I've been to some MD things that were going on for at least an hour or two about gene therapy and all this. And you're trying to stay away from your seat, and the doctor's up there, and it's interesting to know, but then again, it is kind of
Well, what I think the
it's
problem with the conferences that you guys go to is that you explain that the doctors will just go on their brainwave of their own agenda of thinking and start using scientific terms instead of breaking it down to most people's level.
Yeah.
And everyone's who has Beckers or muscular dystrophy who goes to this conference, not everyone's at that level of what you call IQ, mental understanding. So do you get more of the parents with kids with muscular dystrophy there, or do you get more of the people who would have it, like you and Steve, and then they bring their kids and their wife?
It depends on who the people are, but some people do bring their kids. Now, sometimes their kids have Duchenne's, early stages of it. Sometimes they just bring the family to travel with.
But
So not
Duchenne's-
everybody at the conference has MD. They might have Duchenne's, but they happen to go with them because it is a form of muscular dystrophy. But it's not Beckers. It's totally different.
But what's Duchenne's then?
Duchenne's is like wheelchair bound, pretty much. It used to be where kids would only live to a certain age, but now they're ended up living longer. Okay? I don't know the exact age of what it was, and I don't know how much longer they live, so I'm just going to put it that way. They live longer nowadays than they used to, which is good. But usually your life is determined on if you have Duchenne's. Whereas Beckers, who knows, I might die of heart complications because my heart finally gave out. Or, you don't know. But it basically, you atrophy. The more you sit, the more atrophy is a muscle deterioration, basically, is what it is. That's the word for atrophy.
So there's Beckers, Duchenne,
There's limb girdle.
what's that?
There's spinal muscular atrophy, which has to do with the spinal cord, and that's a lot different than Becker's. It's because their spinal cord didn't quite develop, and they don't have any motor skills. Basically, they're in a wheelchair. Their arms can be affected too.
Is that more like that scientist guy? He was always bound to his chair.
Stephen Hawking. No, he had, he had like a debilitating disease that just would accumulate. It would get worse and worse as time went on, and I can't remember the name of it. But he just kind of shriveled up into nothing in the past, which is sad, but quite an intelligent guy. Though. Just that's what's neat about when people see people in wheelchairs. They think that poor this guy, poor that guy. Well, we're just like everybody else, except our bodies just don't work that way. We're not regular in that way.
Of course.
And a lot of people forget that. We're just human beings. So.
Of course. So we got Duchenne. We've got Beckers.
Limb girdle. And then there's another one called spinal muscular SMA, spinal muscular atrophy.
But what's what's that L word?
Limb. LIMB, like a limb.
Limb.
But it has nothing to do with your limbs. It's just called limb girdle. That's the name of it. Some of these names are after Becker's is named after a doctor, a famous German doctor who discovered the disease.
Wow.
Duchenne's, I think, was discovered and that's what it's named after, certain doctors or people
Okay.
that I know of. I think Duchenne's is named after. I'm not sure, but I know Beckers is named after a famous doctor that knew about muscular dystrophy.
Okay. Well, all right. So your conference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is it right here. This where I went. Might be backwards on your TV. But this
Yeah,
is,
the camera. Yeah.
Becker Education and Engagement Day. So
let's do this. Let's focus on what the doctor or the people who were
the people speaking.
Let's focus on that because, of course, when you go to conferences, they're going to feed you. They're going to get you in the groups together. They're going to speak to you at a certain time. And they're going to do all the things that they're supposed to and feed you because it's nice to have people show up that are going to a conference. But let's talk about what the doctors or what the speakers want to
Okay, they would be, well, one that I do remember was talking about muscle types in certain people, and it would show a bisection of muscle, okay, in a certain group. Like they'll show a Duchenne's muscle, and they'll show a Becker's muscle, and they'll show a regular muscle. And you can see what they call scar tissue muscle, which is pseudo muscle, which is scar tissue that breaks down, or muscle tissue that breaks down but turns into scar tissue.
Yeah.
So you see one cross section of the leg that will have a little bit of regular tissue in it, and the rest will be scar tissue. Then you go to a different one, you'll have a lot more muscle in there and less deteriorated scar tissue, depending on what disease you have.
Okay.
So these are just cross sections, and they point to the screen. As you can see the dark area, which would be the fat. And this is now, you can look at this one and you can see where it deteriorated and there's not much muscle. It's mostly made out of pseudo muscle, scar tissue. And they go into that. They use some doctor terminology you wouldn't understand, but sometimes they would break it down. They would give an example, like say if like you had a bicycle and you're riding uphill and it got resistance, and they would use an example to try to explain it in layman's terms so you would understand it.
Well, of course.
Instead of using the doctor terminology, and you get it. And some people would write notes. Some people would, or they have questions. So you can raise your hand, and they will have a question and answer time too, where the doctor will answer your question. Or you can ask him questions, and whatever you're paying attention or taking notes.
So which one's the worst of them all?
Oh, there were so many different doctors, though.
No, I'm just saying based on.
You mean the entire day? I mean, different Becker get-togethers?
Yeah, like.
Okay.
I mean, like if you compare Beckers to Duchenne's and this, which one's worse?
Oh, well, I would have to say.
They're all bad, but obviously they're all
spinal
bad.
muscular atrophy, I think, would be the worst. Duchenne's is not good either.
Of course.
Becker's is I think the Beckers would be, I guess it would be the best one to have because you are a little bit more mobile than most people with different dystrophies. Now,
But they all affect the heart, the spine.
yeah, they pretty much affect the heart, yeah, and the muscles, but it
But the
depends
Beckers is the one that affects the heart.
yeah,
the
that's the
most.
one that, yes, I think so. Beckers would be the one that affects you.
And the spinal would be the one that affects the spine.
Yes, the spine, and that can affect some nerve stuff too.
Yeah. Of
I'm
course.
not sure exactly where, but
But then what's the other one? The limb.
limb girdle, that's more of a facial kind of thing. I don't really know that much about
Oh,
it
you
either.
mean that's when it almost looks like a stroke?
Well, yeah,
But it's not.
Kind of, but it's not.
I know
It's
what you're
like
talking about. That
because your muscles in your face will atrophy, but you
just
can't
kind
use
of
them. Like
look dead.
when you talk, you won't be. It will move.
Yeah, it's like a stroke when someone has a stroke.
Yeah, kind of. In a similar way, yeah.
Because I
should
have
say
that makes sense. I have a friend from high school.
Okay.
And he moved to Lansing and got married. Him and his wife.
Yeah.
He's like I think it was a teenage ministry personnel. He moved on to something else. That's not important. What's important is that one day he put pictures of him and his family and he's got a big smile usually. And then all his picture now, you see one side of the face is kind of droopy.
Yeah. Okay.
Doesn't look quite normal.
Mm-hmm.
It looks almost worse than someone with a stroke.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm a person that had a stroke as a very young child.
Mm-hmm.
or during childbirth or something. So literally my whole left side is all whacked out of shape. So shorter, weaker, everything. But my face recovered because usually you can recover. You catch the stroke on time, usually.
Right, if it's not too far gone into.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in my case, I was so young and I was in the right place at the right time with the right amount of doctors or whatever. But so you can't really tell unless I wave at you with my left hand. You're like, oh, this guy's got some love. Him has the lymphoma, right?
Yeah, or
what is it called?
It could be limb girdle. I
Limb
don't
girdle.
know. He might have a stroke. I don't know.
No,
I didn't see him.
I think it's limb girdle.
Okay.
Because I remember him saying that L word. I'm like, what is that? And I never took the time.
Right.
I never took the time to like research it out because he would tell you, but you wouldn't. But you just didn't have time to like, oh, I need to check this out.
Yeah.
But it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense.
Okay.
But here's the thing: with him, do you think he'll get worse? Does that happen with?
I don't. I think, well, actually, yes, it will get worse. It doesn't get better. It gets worse as time goes on. But it depends on the rate that it happens, and everybody's rate is different too. Like when I told you about Steve, where Steve's younger than I am, and he can hardly move his arms anymore, where I still can, and I'm older.
But do you think that's because he only did a type?
That could be too. That could be too. I have another friend, John, and I've called him before. He's in a chair. He's on an electric scooter, and I've told him the stuff that I do, and he says, "Man, you're braver than I am. You got more guts to do that kind of stuff." And I said, "Yeah, but I like that kind of stuff, and that's not everybody's hands on. Not everybody's mechanical. Not everybody wants to build stuff, do stuff. I happen to, and that's what my exercise is, because Steve doesn't. I mean." You can actually. There is a thing in here that says about exercise. Basically, it tells you what to do and what not to do. Don't overdo it. Basically, do what you can. Don't do it every day. If you feel tired, stop. Basically, and so we were talking about that exercise. They brought that up at the conference, and I said, well, I don't really exercise, but I get up, I get down, I get in out of bed, I stand up. Sometimes I stand up, whatever. Is that enough? And they said, yeah, if you're doing it, you're pretty much active all day, that's plenty. You don't need to do any more than that. That's just enough to what you need. You don't have to lift weights. You don't have to be an Arnold Schwarzenegger. You don't have to be an athletic nut. Just basically stay in shape, keep your health good. So on that part, I guess I'm good. So I do a form of exercise, but, and I get sore from it too. Like the other day, I was painting and my arms are just killing me because I've been doing this all day.
Well, I think that's everybody. I mean,
well, everybody, yeah, but I mean.
But you, in your case, your nerves are just.
Well, yeah, but our muscles are so weak that we have to work twice as hard as the average person would. So that way we become a lot more tired because we're really using our muscles hard as. I mean, it takes me twice the energy to use my muscles and do it. You're already pick it up and like fine, you're fine. But with me, I do that all day, and now I'm beat. I'm probably not worth a crap the next day because I'm so worn out. So you got to watch that. You don't want to overdo it because when you overdo it, your muscles get weak. You have a chance to fall down. You can break your leg. You get injured. Who knows? Dude, it's just something to watch for.
Dude, I remember the first time I saw you fall down at work. I'm like, I gasped. Like, oh my God, you died.
Everybody gets that too.
I mean, it looks real bad. It looks bad, and it makes a big bad sound. Because
it does,
you caught yourself, but you didn't catch yourself.
Right. There's a trick to it. Once you get the momentum going, it's kind of tuck and roll. And I've talked to other people with it too, and they said that sometimes they ended up with their legs over their head.
What?
Because they went backwards. Yeah, because they fell backwards. It's like what happens is once I fall forward, like I remember the one time we were at Wolfgang's. And I was fine, but I just lost my balance. And once you get past that realm, you start getting tipped. And once you get past this, there's the point of no return. You cannot get out of it. You're going to have to keep going. So the momentum is keep going. So basically what I did was I tucked my head, and I was wearing a hat, thank God. Because you can get a head injury falling on your head too. You don't want that. And I kind of did like a somersault, basically. which is fine because it's slow, it's a roll, but you don't want to fall really
Dude,
hard.
I
You don't
can't.
want to. Yeah,
I can't
and
believe
it's
it.
scary looking.
Dude,
Yeah.
I gotta explain this to the crowd.
Okay.
So Ron's getting out, and he gets out all the time the exact same way. He gets a chair, chair's in a certain spot.
Yeah.
I don't know how the chair. I think the chair was on the side, and you were just going and balance yourself from the door to the chair. But it looked like the way that the street was, and the edge of the street, the corner, it was a little lower than usual.
Yep.
And then somehow you lost balance of the chair and the door, and then your momentum, your body weight, just carried you through. And you literally stopped your head, literally the hat and your head stopped your momentum, and then you were just almost in that state of mind, I mean that state of the position, for at least good 4 seconds. Because I'm watching you, I'm like, oh, maybe he's going to try to maneuver. But because the momentum took you through, your head hit the ground, your momentum then shifted towards getting down, but you totally missed the chair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, your wife is going to kill me.
Well, it's funny about that because I've had different reactions, like women especially. If they don't know what's going on and I fall, I've had women scream before bloody murder. Just totally freak out. Oh my God, should I call an ambulance? Should I do this? Like, no, I don't need it. I explained to them briefly what I've got in a nutshell. Because you're going to have to, because, and they're like, oh, and they overreact. And that's human nature. You did too. You've never seen it before and it freaked you out. Of course you're going to freak out. But once you know what's happening and why it's happening, it's not such a big deal. But when people think, because they don't know, they have no clue what I have. They might think I'm having a stroke or a heart attack. So they're going to call, like, I'll give you an example. I was at Menards and I was walking across, I was by myself. It's when I had a cane. And I was walking across the crash hatch there where the cars have to stop. You go into the building.
Yeah.
And I had a crumple and fall down. And a gal runs out and she goes, oh my God, should I call an ambulance or you have a heart attack? I said, no. What do I got to do? I said, don't call an ambulance, just help me up. So she helped me up. And I got up and things are fine. But she freaked out. He's going to call me an ambulance. No, please don't call an ambulance. I'm not going to pay for something I don't need. Ambulances aren't cheap, please.
It's a good thing that wasn't me falling, because I would ask someone else. Well, you could come back to my place and then make my lower half feel better.
Yeah.
Of course, I got to put that in there because I always do. Better boom, better bang.
But people react differently to it. But if they know about it happens, they don't take it as a big deal because they think I'm having a heart attack or something. And I get that now and then.
How many times do you think you fall in?
Oh God, I don't know.
Quite
a few.
You think over 10,000 times?
No, not that many. But let's put it this way: if I got $10,000 for every time I fell down, I'd be quite rich. I would be very, very wealthy. I would be, and that's a lot. But that's one thing about being in a chair is I don't fall down as often. When I was on a cane, I fall down more often because I'm standing up.
Yeah.
So with a chair, it's safer. Now, not necessarily like you said, when I get out of the car and I transfer, I've slipped before and missed the chair. It does happen from time to time. It's going to happen.
Have you fallen?
Avoid that.
Have you fallen with your wife around?
Oh yeah.
Has she been able to pick you up?
No. Now that's the thing. Also, when we did go to Wolfgang's. It was just Andre and I, and
I almost got you up. But the thing is, the problem that I had getting you up wasn't the body weight.
Right.
It was moving your body towards the chair.
Yes.
And I knew I could pick you up, but just working my body to work around the chair to get you on the chair was the more challenging part.
Oh yes.
Than anything else. Picking you up, I think if you fell right now, I could literally pick you up. It may take me a couple of tries, but I would figure that out, and then I would be able. And if you put you back on the chair here, or one of these chairs, or your own wheelchair, I could do that. However, because that was my first time seeing you
Mm-hmm.
make a face plant with your forehead,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
That guy was probably 6'4".
Oh yeah, he was quite a tall gentleman.
He was about
yeah.
6'4", about at least 250 of body weight.
Yes.
But he almost had that defensive defense line body material.
Yeah.
Where he was a big, strong guy by natural strength.
That's
And
the best
he
part,
basically picked you up. I helped him a little bit, but he basically.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it takes two people. And that's better with two people. But I'm dead weight. There's no way I can help you push because my muscles don't have any strength in them anymore. They're just frail. They're not. So that's the thing about falling down. Well, one good thing about though, most people will help you out. They don't really have any problem with giving you a hand. You see what's going on. You tell them what the deal is, and they're pretty good about helping you out. He had his wife and child with him, but still, most people are pretty good about that, helping you out. I mean, you know, what are you going to do? There, just like sit there.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, eventually, someday, do you think that you're eventually going to have to like move to a better home?
Well,
the house that you have is pretty legit. You have, I mean, we've talked about your acorn and going downstairs and everything else, but eventually, you and your wife won't be able to carry on to picking you up, or do you think that you're going to have to like?
yeah,
maybe not go
eventually. I mean, she can help me out for a while, but it might come to a time where we have to have a nurse come in or something. Yeah, it may get to that, but that's not until like maybe my 70s or 80s. I don't know, because I did meet a gentleman, and not this one, but one we previously went to. I believe it was Minnesota, if I remember correctly. And he was 77. He had Beckers, but his hands, he couldn't move his hands that well. He couldn't do his fingers. His hands were weak. He couldn't really do a lot of stuff on his own. And I kind of looked at him and thinking, God, am I going to be that way when I'm 70? But then I look back on Steve, which he's younger and he's worse than I am, and I'm older and I'm not as worse as he is. So everybody's different. So I can't really judge that I'm going to be exactly like this old guy. I could be, maybe I'm more ambulatory, maybe I can still move. I don't know. Time will tell. You don't really know until that time comes. You can predict it, but you don't really know. That's why everybody's different. There are different strains of the Beckers than they would, you know.
So by most people that have your type of disease, do you feel that they have a positive energy, negative energy, or are they in between? They're like, oh, I have this disease. What do I do?
It's more they don't understand. It's not negative. Most people are really friendly about, like, say, if I'm somewhere in my band, I can't get in the band by myself because the gentleman owned it, Steve, owned it before me, has an electric chair. He just sits up the ramp. This ramp's steep enough where I can't really do it in my wheelchair. It's too steep. So I need somebody to help me out. So a lot of times what I'll do, I'll get out to the car. And if I see somebody walking by, I'll say, hey, excuse me, can you give me a hand? You push me up the ramp. They're like, and most of the time they're really good about it. They have no problem, which is great.
Okay. Well, what I'm asking are the people that actually have the disease. Those type of, do you feel like those people, like I know that with me, with my disability, I can get really, in my own brainwave, get really mad at the fact that I have a disability and I wanted to do this and I can't do this.
Yes.
I mean, I get more upset the fact that I can never pursue any of my goals. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if I was not going to be able to make it professionally, a professional athlete or a professional musician or whatever. But the fact that I was never given a chance to pursue those goals because of my whole left side. That I can't use my left side. I can't play the guitar or certain instruments. Or let's say because I like sports, I can never participate in athletics with my peers. Not make it into the pros and make it collegiate or high school. It's a long shot to make it to the pros. So even I would know that even if I did have a left hand and I grew 6 inches taller, it doesn't mean that I would have made it to the pros.
Mm-hmm.
But what gets me every time is that I get upset when I know, like, damn, could have been doing this, I could have been doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Even working at a factory or a warehouse where it'd be nice to have another hand and then I could keep up pace, make $3 or $4 more. My cognitive intelligence
Cognitive
or thinking
Yeah,
or
okay.
intelligence or being able to receive information and then keep the information, that's not really as high as I want it to be.
Right.
And then I'm also missing out on income base of more comfortable lifestyle. And those things that when you look at getting married and having kids, you don't have, anybody can have kids. All you gotta do is stick it in and poke it out. But there's more to it. When you have kids, you gotta know if you can support the family and support the wife if she gets sick and ill and can't work.
Right.
And that's something that most people, kind of don't ever think about. But in my case, I'm like, I missed out on a lot of the things that, and I feel like I'm left out of certain social groups and certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there like do you feel like the group of people that you were in with, do you feel like they have this, do anyone states their frustration?
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, there is a lot of that that we do discuss. And you're right. I understand. Yeah, I do get frustrated because there's certain things I can't do anymore. Or it's getting worse. I can't lift this. I can't lift that. It really pisses me off because I enjoy doing that. And if I can't join doing something that I'm good at, I'm going to be miserable. And I got to be physical. Whereas other people in your situation, yeah, I think that too. Yeah, I could have got a better job. Yeah, I could have got a different job and made more money, and I wouldn't have to work as hard. I could have, would have, should have, would have, but I didn't, and I just had to accept it. But yeah, it's hard. It is frustrating. It is. You do get angry. You do get like when you fall down, you're embarrassed, you're angry, and yeah, and it's a lot to deal with. And you're right. There is a lot of that, a lot of frustration. But that's what you have to learn to deal with, and we did it. And there was a lot of discussion on that. A lot of discussion where people had fallen down, or they dropped something, or they broke their leg, and now they're in the hospital. You got to be able to handle it. But I understand. You're right. You do get frustrated. You do think that, and I think that's the worst part. The physical part, that doesn't bother me, but the mental part, that's what bothers me. That's where I get frustrated and I get angry because there's nothing I can do about it. Or when someone does not understand the disease, they just assume it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
What do they assume?
They assume that you can do this, you can do that, or they assume that you're in a chair so you can have sex. I don't know how many times I get asked that question.
Really?
Yes.
That many times?
They just assume. They just assume, oh, you must be paralyzed. No. But I'm glad you asked.
Wait,
Now, I like it when people ask questions. They don't assume.
how many times do you think that? All right, here's the real question.
Okay.
Who's asking this? The people type.
Mm.
And is it people who are, do you think they're sexually immature, or people who are
mature.
just very
Yeah.
like not coherent of what your disease is? Because I feel like guys would ask you that because, like, dude, how are you gonna do that if you got a wife?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What does make sense to me is if a girl asks you that because, it's really like, I feel like with women it's not really a business because they're not a guy, so they don't have that tool down there.
Right.
But I'm astonished. Well, I'm not. Most guys would. I feel like most guys would ask you that. But I think a lot of guys people who are mature would never ask you that because, like, I don't know, it's none of my business if you can or not.
Yeah.
And why would I embarrass him if he can't?
A lot of times I get to ask a question and it's more out of curiosity. It's not an assumption because when people, I'd rather people ask questions, the stupid ones, than not ask anything at all or assume. And that's the thing about that. And a lot of times say, yeah, people have said that before, but that's just natural thinking. Because some people are paralyzed and they can't do it anymore because they don't have any feel for the waist down. I understand that, but you shouldn't assume what somebody's got. The best thing to do is ask them. And 9 times out of 10, they'll answer your question because I'd rather people ask questions than stupid ones. Otherwise, you're going to embarrass yourself and the person you're talking to,
But most people.
So if you want to ask a question, that's fine. I'll answer it. Now you know. See, now you're educated. You know, next time you see a person, not to assume that they're paraplegic or that they're at muscular dystrophy or they can't have sex. You're more educated now. Now you have a feeling. And a lot of people don't know about this. They have no clue. And you can't get mad at them because they don't know. But the more you educate people and tell them about it and make them aware of it, the more they're going to be. But this is not going to happen overnight.
No.
But most people by nature are really helpful. Like sometimes I've been in part of situation before where, do you need some help? Or here, do you want me to give you a push? Or can I do that? And I'll say, yeah, sure. Or I'll go, no, thank you, but thanks anyway. Now, that goes the other way. I'll give you an example. One time, this older gentleman asked to help me. And I said, I thank you. I really appreciate it, but I'm fine. But thanks for asking. I appreciate it. He wasn't too happy about it. I could tell by his expression. He was kind of ticked off. It's like he was probably thinking, how dare you? You're handicapped and you need the help. So why did you turn me down? Well, the reason I turned down is because I'm independent. It's called independence.
Well,
you want to be as normal as you possibly can be with whatever you got. And the more normal you are, the more your life is easier. Whereas if I had to have people help me all the time, it wouldn't be fun. I mean, do I need help sometimes? Of course, sure, absolutely. And I have no problem with people helping me. But some people assume that I'm going to need help, and they get, if I turn them down, they get disappointed. That's one example. I haven't had that yet, again.
I tell you what.
But I thought, sorry, if you wanted to help me, I'm sure. But so I'll have to, there's no way you can tell except after the fact.
I tell you what. I think a lot of people, when they look at me and when they see me at work or something, and it's always these kind of weird old ladies who are maybe 10, 15, 20 years older than me. And they have this weird look on their face, like it's precious to see me working. Or I've had where older men says, you should really be proud of yourself for working. In the back of my mind, I'm like, hey, Becker, which I want to use the F-bomb there.
Right.
I'd rather not work, and I'd rather be banging your daughter. Shouldn't say that on podcasts, but still, it's funny because humor is what people need.
Exactly.
Just like my left hand needs fixing. Any doctors out there that wants to fix my left hand, I'll give you $1 million after I sign a contract with the Detroit Tigers. After I get signed. Thank you. But seriously, it's kind of like when I get those people who kind of like patronizing my ability to work, or a lot of people don't realize I live on my own and I pay my bills and all that. A lot of people think I'm collecting disability
there's all these assumptions again.
Or SSDI, not just Social Security, disability, Social Security. People are like astounded, and people are like, no one cares you. Like, no, I got my TVs, I got my books, I got my friends, I can go downtown and chill with people. I know when to leave. I know when it's time to go home. I know my time and my space is now within the same age group of people downtown.
Right. So
I go home before they even get out. And I think a lot of times people are just, again, not just informed, but almost ignorant. And I think the problem with disability, when you speak about disability, people with disability, they throw us all in the same boat or ship. And they think that we're all in the same Titanic. we're all just not that functioning, or we're going the same.
Yeah, right.
And that's why it's difficult to do a podcast about disability, because you don't know who you're going to get on the podcast. You don't know, as a person with disability, other people with disability may not even want to talk about the disability.
Yeah,
Because they
like that,
don't want that to be the center of their attention, or they might be embarrassed about it. And a lot of people, it's really weird to have a disability. For me, it is. Because everybody focuses, and for you, it's probably as well. Because your first impression is always the only time that you're going to get a first impression. So when people see you, they automatically assume certain scenarios in their own head.
Yes.
And you as a person, you can't get upset by that because you don't know their brain level, where they are.
You're right.
And that is a weird thing to be disabled, because it's not like being black, just having a skin tone a little different. Because you can be the most intelligent black man in the world, and you can look like a homeless guy. Or you can be, or you can be the best looking white guy in the world and be dumb as a rock. But people will just not associate that together.
Right.
With people with disability, they kind of automatically think that it's not that we're stupid, but they think that our cognitive intelligence, thoughts, are not lined up to be that.
Yeah, I've had people like that before that talk to you like you're 5. Hi, how are you today? Are you doing all right? I'm like, I'm not 5, lady. I'm 63 years old.
Sometimes
you don't have to talk to me like a child. But see, some people, they don't want to offend you, and they don't want to say anything bad. So they think that if they mention something like, hey, good for you, good to see you out there and working and telling everybody that you can do it, that's fine. I appreciate that. That's very good to say. But sometimes you might overdo it. Because yes, we appreciate that. Yeah, but we want to be normal like everybody else, and we are. But we try. If you give us that chance, and if you listen to us, and you don't assume, then we're probably going to take you a lot better. And yes, some people are going to assume, and I do get asked questions all the time. If I got $1 for every time I got that question asked, I'd be quite rich. And I wish that were true, because I need the money. But anyway, people just assume or associate you with not being very smart because you are disabled. And intelligence has nothing to do with my disability whatsoever. Yours doesn't either, I don't think.
Well, I think
so. We shouldn't assume that people are. I mean, there's a lot of people like this. They're disabled, but we're smart. Like Steve, he's a brain. He knows codes, and he knows how to program computers, and he's my go-to guy. He's my go-to guy for that. I have no clue what he's doing.
Well, his cognitive
intelligence
is pretty high.
I do have a schedule here. I want to show you before we end it here. I'm just going to go over it really quick. Well, it's Engagement Day, September 28th, 2004, 9 to 6 p.m. It's in Pittsburgh. The first thing is 8 to 9 a.m. registration and breakfast. Okay. And Dr. Paula Clements was talking. She did a lot of the talk. Yeah, she was hosting it. At 9:15 to 10 a.m., Becker Muscular Dystrophy overview and care considerations. They do exercises and not overdoing it and things like that. Let's see. 10 to 10:45 cardiac care in Becker, which is what I have. Dr. Gavin Hickey spoke on that, so I was paying attention to that one. And then 10:45 to 11 is a break. 11 to 11:45 exercise and physical therapy in Becker. There's physical therapy. I don't know quite well if it's actually working, but they're experimenting to see if it might. We don't know. Let's see. And then Becker clinical trials and research, which I didn't qualify for because they stop it at 50. I'm too old for that. What they do is they take people and they do not experiments, but they test their abilities, their strengths. It's just a study. I've done a study before back when I was younger. To see if Viagra would help slow down the atrophy in muscular dystrophy muscles. And it didn't work, but I did get paid for it. So that's a neat thing too. You get to travel too. Your travel's paid for. I moved to California. It's very wonderful.
California.
And then 12:30 and 1:30 is lunch break.
Okay.
Then now these are all different. The first one is registration breakfast, Becker Muscular Dystrophy Care Research, Living with Becker. Now the Living with Becker, there was a mental awareness from 1:30 to 2. Brian Mulligan, and that's another gentleman you're going to be interested in here pretty soon. 2:30 to 2 to 2:30 everyday strategy for living with Becker. Okay. 2:30 to 2:45 break. 2:45 to 3 planning for the future. 3 to 4. 3:30 to 4 building community. 4 to 4:15 closing remarks. And then 4:15 to 6 p.m. is the reception. Hors d'oeuvres. Well, sometimes they serve alcohol, sometimes they don't. Depends on where you're at, what they're doing. But basically, that's a rundown of the whole day. What it breaks down to. So you got a whole day of listening, and I kind of wish it would go on longer. There'd be more time to get together with people that you've just met and compare notes and talk about this and certain things that you have. And it's a whole community, so it's really cool. It's great. Now, there was a gentleman there, and here's the surprise part. I was saving this for this week.
Ooh, surprise part.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we have. There was a guy named Pat Cusick who has Beckers also. Pat Cusick Jr. Pardon me. And Brian Malkan, I think it's pronounced MSW-LSW. He's like a therapist or a social worker kind of guy.
Yeah.
He has. I think he has a form of cerebral palsy.
Oh.
Like you do. And I
Wow.
thought, And when he first introduced himself, he says, I don't have Beckers, but I have cerebral palsy. But for me, doing sports is challenging. He can swim, he can run with some difficulty, but he can do it. He's
Wow.
like you. He works out, like you work out, he works out.
Huh.
He does what he can, but I thought, Andre, I really like this dude. This is very, very independent, and you're independent. And so
He's married?
what? No, I don't believe so. No, he's not married.
Is he old? Young?
But he's about I'd say about your age, maybe a little bit older.
Is he tall?
No, about your size. But
Oh.
he reminded me of you. Just his hair and just the way he was standing. It was like you, but it was in a different body, like a different person. But
He didn't.
I thought that
say,
interesting, and later on I went
and he didn't
and-
say
and
obnoxious
talked
things
to
like
him.
I did.
and I talked about I had talked about you with the cerebral palsy.
Oh.
And I said, hey, if you could give him some advice or let him know that he's not alone, because he doesn't really know anybody in our area that has what he has. And if there is, he doesn't know him yet. So what I did was I wrote down the thing, United Cerebral Palsy, and there's a number on there too. And if you want to go ahead and copy that down.
Oh.
So I thought you'd be interested. You give him a call. He said, give him a call anytime. You can explain what you've got and everything like that. And I thought maybe he'd be a help for you.
Nice.
Because that way you can communicate. Now you got somebody to talk to. I mean, you got your social group, but they don't have what you have.
No.
They're disabled like you are.
No, it's different.
Yeah, it's different. So now that I found somebody that is like you and has cerebral palsy, you can probably keep that folder too.
But I just know it's
Yeah.
it's just it's weird because mine's was never really, my disability is not really defined. A lot of people, my youth doctors and all that thought was cerebral palsy.
Right.
As I got older, doctors that changed their mind said, no, it's probably with a stroke because cerebral palsy people get starting to get worse and worse. So I got to probably reach out to him. I want to email him and everything else with it and explain my side of the story. But it's just weird to be. One thing that's weird that you can't even relate to is that men with disability who are born with disability, we don't get approached by a lot of women.
No,
Women will just kind of bypass us, and they'll treat us almost like they're kid.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they're the same age as I am, a little older than me,
Right.
and with women my age, either they are flabbergasted and attracted to me, but
Right.
they can't bring themselves to the next level of treating me like a partner to have for the rest of their lives.
Mhm.
They kind of put me in this pedestal, like I'm almost like a rock star,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not reachable, but I'm not anyone special. I don't know how to explain that.
Okay.
But it's weird because it's difficult for people who are born with disability right away to make really good connections with friends and other people of the opposite sex because they don't know where my brain level is
Mm-hmm.
to expect to think as
Okay.
a person.
Right.
They won't dare to ask anything like a sexual innuendo question. You know how most people flirt.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't have to be dirty, flirty,
No.
sexual
Right.
deviance flirting, but it could be some flirtation going on. And a lot of times women won't even go there with me because they don't see me that way. But they're still attracted to me, but they won't take themselves to that next level.
I see.
And then if I would take that conversation to the next level, then it's by the third party, it sounds very creepy.
Right.
Because they don't expect me to be talking about that form and shape.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say creepy, I'm not saying I'm telling a dirty joke and it's like, oh, well, we don't. It's a very subtle way of flirting with people that everyone does it.
Okay.
But if it's two people who are in a dating scene or something's going on between them and they have a good connection, it's appropriate. So when people hear me on the third wheel, when the third person is hearing my conversation with a girl talking to me, they either think that's my sister, someone that I know as a family, or just a friend.
Okay.
And then the guy will even make a move on the girl in front of me, not knowing that she's talking to me because she's attracted to me, or she wants me in a relationship with me. And that's something that I can't explain it. It's just a weird thing.
No, I understand.
It's just a weird thing to express. And there's no one that I can talk to about because either I see guys, I do see guys with disability, but they're over the top and then they're the ones that get laid. So they're always talking really dirty. They're making fun of themselves all the time. They're over exaggeration of their sexual fantasies or anything that they say out of their mouth is over the top.
Right.
And then people get a bunch of laughs out of it. The girl thinks it's funny, but 99% of us, we can't do that because most of us can't or we shouldn't be talking that way, even if we were able-bodied.
Right.
Like if I was able-bodied and I was saying all the things that those guys were saying to girls, that would be sexual harassment.
Right.
By a third or fourth party listening. Now, if I was a stand-up comedian talking like that, people would, back in the 90s, think it's funny. Today,
they know you're joking.
People today will be so questioning because you're a jokester, but it's a weird thing. So thank you for that.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I thought, God, he would love this because I saw him and I was thinking, the first person I thought of you. First person I thought of, wow, this guy's really accomplished. He does really good. He's very, he gets out there and he goes for it. And in a lot of ways, he reminds me, you're very independent. Even though you have what you have, you're very independent. I mean, you do a lot of things that I'm surprised you can do. And I'm not that. I can be pretty independent too, but independence is great because that way you don't have to rely on anybody. It's not that you don't want anybody's help. It's that you don't need. And the more you can do yourself, you feel better about yourself. You don't have to. There's sometimes where you feel like a burden. I do. I've had other people talk about it. He's in the way. His chair is always in the way. He takes forever. I got to help him with this. I got to help him with it. He's just there. yeah, okay, but there are people like that. But I'm sorry, I'm a burden. That's just the way my life is. I can't avoid it. I can't.
Well,
I
at
do
this
the
point,
best I can. And to deal with that, like you brought up earlier about being emotional and dealing with that and dealing with people's assumptions and all that, you got to build yourself up. You got to understand that. And sometimes it's hard because you forget that people don't really understand. They're not doing it to be mean. They just don't know how to approach you. They don't know what to say. So they say something stupid and inappropriate. They're thinking that that's okay, but you're going, oh, God, here we go again. All right. What do you want?
Well, yeah, because
And you get tired of it. But
Exactly.
you can't blame people for that because people are always going to do that. That's just human nature.
it's some people.
And you can't get angry. I mean, you get frustrated. I think frustration's a better word to use. You're angry, but you're not mad. You're just kind of just fed up with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I tell you this. I think that even being trained how to do a job or something, like the place I work now, when I first worked there, I was trained to be in the call center.
Right.
My new managers and supervisors, they just kind of gave up on me on the third day of being trained because the people who were training me, when doing their job and making sure that I knew where the software and everything was, and that's something that you just, in order to know where everything is on the software, you have to be able to repeat it multiple days in a row.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I don't like how they do things at the hospital is that they train you on your days off. And in my mind, like, why am I going to work 21 days in a row just so that I can learn this thing and I'm not going to get paid more?
Exactly. Yeah.
So if I get trained 3 times in 3 weeks, and then I do that, and then I work 21 days in a row, I'm going to be worn out, and I'm going to be grumpy, and I'm going to be pissy to you and maybe to the patients. And why wouldn't you just not have the person being trained on the days that they have to work, and someone else says a new employee works that person's shift, you move that person being trained to that new department, and then it goes back and forth to make sure they can help out on the original job assignment that they had to do, and that's how they do it. Yes, I think that's the frustration thing about it, that people don't know how to train people. And a lot of times people forget we're only about 65 years from the idea that there used to be institutions where they used to put people with cerebral palsy, strokes, MD, MS, all in the institution, not houses.
And the same time, that's the only place you would.
And
they could, couldn't fit into society.
No.
Just, well, I mean, they could, but back then they would rather just institutionalize you instead of putting any effort into training you or thinking that you could do something, where it's totally different nowadays.
Well, yeah, and that's one thing that even with this new generation, people just still don't know how to. Like, I'm a good worker. I come to work. I go to work. I get my job done.
Yeah.
I'm the person that you want to train in every department, even if it takes me longer to learn than retraining someone who has a 140 IQ, but is too lazy to read all their science books and all their calculus books and all their terminology books. And they go to work and they don't show up to work because they're too lazy to learn even the simplest things. With someone like me, I may not know calculus, I may not know trigonometry, I may not have to learn anything that's based on the galaxies, universe, how things work. But you'd rather have me being trained because I'm going to be there. And it's just a weird. I sometimes think I'm basically invisible. And the only reason I moved downtown Grand Rapids because I got sick of going to Manelli's. And I love that restaurant. I love the owners. But people who go Manelli's at the bar, it's a routine for them. They're already married, they have kids, they are living in that era where you used to go to the bar after work. Everyone did. Now that era is ending. A lot of 20-year-olds don't drink as much as we do, so they don't go to the bars as much, even downtown. But the reason why I moved downtown, even if I'm not center of attention, I can go to a place called the Scholar and have Manhattan or a bourbon.
Okay.
And I know it's $15 for a drink, but I tell you what, I love the atmosphere of that place.
No.
And I love to, if I sit down and talk to somebody, a stranger, that's even worth it to me.
Sure. And if you're just going to have one drink, so be it. I mean, but at least you got to experience the place. Sounds like fun. We'll have to go there sometime. I'll buy one drink and just experience. It sounds like a pretty cool place.
Well, I'll tell you what, next week, Wednesday, the Red Wings play at night.
Okay.
And then if you want to, you can come back.
Yeah.
You can watch the Red Wings and maybe go to that place before the game starts.
Yeah, all right. We could do that. Yeah.
And have a drink.
Yeah, okay.
It's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, just have one drink and then go have one drink. That, just to experience the place. That sounds like fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat. Yeah.
So I think we're going to end this podcast right here because it's a little bit over an hour. Don't want to drain your brains out. And I didn't want to get into a pity parties. No. Crybaby moment. No one loves me. But I'd like to thank Ron. I'd like to thank the Beckers Muscular Dystrophy conference, the whole Beckers Engagement Education Day. Ron came by and showed us. He gave me a phone number, email of the guy that has cerebral palsy. I can make contact with him, and maybe in the future I'll have more people with disability.
Yeah.
And on the podcast.
Yeah.
Basically, that's kind of the reason why I started this podcast, so I can reach out to people with other disabilities, especially with men who are kind of like in no man's land, which is kind of like an Ozzy Osbourne song. Ozzy, we love you. Congratulations on the Hall of Fame, rock and roll.
Yeah,
God bless.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah. I'm going to get an Ozzy. I am going to get an Ozzy Osbourne tattoo.
I figured that.
Yeah, I'm
You already got a Guns N' Roses thing, yeah, Ozzy, right?
Well, I already got my sports teams, man.
Okay, yeah.
Where should I put this?
Yeah,
Ozzy. Should I put it up top? Should I put it right here? Holy shit.
I don't know. It depends on where you want it. I would think your shoulder, but that's up to you. I mean, it's your body. You can put it where you want it. Put it on your chest. I don't know. I don't know.
That'd be awful.
Yeah.
Put your shirt back on. You don't want to see
I have never got a tattoo before. I'm thinking about it, but I got to decide what I want. See, you know what you want. If you're decided when you go into it, you have a lot better decision to make of what you exactly want. Whereas I'm not really sure what I want. I'm not into sports. I'm not into sports. And I like cars, but so it takes some thinking. But, yeah.
Dude, I've been figuring out that I'm getting old.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah,
starting to have that.
Yeah. You get the
Starting
jiggle.
I'm starting to get the jiggle on the bottom of my arm. But that only means I need to work out more.
Yeah.
Or I need to go.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about that. Some people don't want to hear that. All right, folks. Thank you for listening to the CRAZYDRE Podcast Show. It's going to be on YouTube as well. RSS.com. Thank you. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. That's it.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank everyone else out there. Peace, love, and thank you, Ron, for coming back.
No problem.
And we'll probably do a podcast again next week.
Yeah.
Sometime.
Sounds good.
Maybe, I don't know what we're going to talk about.
Someday you might get weekends off.
Maybe we'll talk about my flabby arms.
Yeah.
My arms on the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I'm not a girl, though, because girls,
girls
get that real bad. I mean, like,
yeah.
this is basically muscle tone that needs to be muscle.
Yeah, my wife's got the jigglies.
So,
yeah. It's part of getting old. Yeah.
But you don't have those.
Not really. No, I don't have any muscle to jiggle anymore. It's thin. It's all wasted away. It's all just. Well, when I went into the hospital, I was about 150 pounds soaking wet. Now I'm 148. So when your muscle atrophies, your density or your mass goes away. So I'm going to be lighter now because I don't have as much mass as I used to, and it's all atrophy. Just something you can't avoid.
I can't believe it's sad to hear that, but I can't believe I just wasted probably the viewers 3 minutes of me doing this to her.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. People are like, what the hell is he doing? Is he waving at us? Hi, everybody. Hi. All right, folks. Really, I'm leaving. All right. You all have a good week.
Yep.
Griff will be back on the show.
Yep.
Probably going to do a comparison to Michael Jordan. Peace, love, and happiness. Peace.
It's in your lap. Right there by your belly.
Mm-hmm.